everyone. Welcome to episode 23 of Tights Frame of Mind. I'm Pantyhose King, and I am actually the solo host today because Speed King is currently in traffic, believe it or not. And he is okay. Don't worry. I'm sure there's no runs in his pantyhose, but I do have a special guest with me today to take over. So it's going to be a very intimate meeting, I'd say. Very intimate. It is Dondero from Dinks Wit Kinks.
Hello. I like intimate. Intimate's good. Very personable. Yes, I am Dondero.
Now, I met you a while back. I think it was through Discord that we met. Is that was that?
Probably.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. And so, actually, no, I think it was FetLife, wasn't it?
It could have been FetLife, it could have been Discord. I do participate in both those communities very, very frequently.
Yeah, yeah. I've been on Fet. I looked on. I've been on FetLife for 12 years. I know,
Yeah,
right?
I have been there for quite some time. Like it's probably been a ridiculously long time if I look.
Now, when I first met you, you were like not. I mean, you were a hoser, but you were not as like I guess as out front as you are about it now. So, like, what was the metamorphosis? What caused?
I think what really went down is one, I looked kind of more into why I was the way I was, and I do want to get if we're going to talk pantyhose, I definitely want to talk the science behind it. But I started a
Science.
podcast called Dinks Wit Kinks, and we pretty much what we did is every week we would pick a new fetish or a kink, and we would break it down and kind of like what was it about, why people had like the why people had it. Like that was always the fun thing to talk about, like the psychological and physical reasons somebody would have this fetish or kink, and then like how to do it safely, and just it built a lot of pride. Like we would cover kinks and we'd have a lot of people come out and talk to us and be like, I can't believe you talked about our kink and you made me feel so normal about it. And I was like, well, I have my fetish and I talk about it on the podcast often. So I was just
Mm-hmm.
like, you know what? I'm gonna have just as much pride in my fetish as I do about my fetish podcast, and it's grown. We have international listeners. We just did an interview with somebody from I think Poland.
Ah, Poland. I wonder if I know them. Do I do? Okay, are they a hoser or are they just
Mm.
is this another kink?
No, no, no. Yeah, this is for a entirely different kink.
Okay.
This was, I think we covered hair. It was all about the hair fetish.
Hair fetish,
Mhm.
like body hair or like brushing something.
Everything, both.
That's an interesting one for me. I mean, yeah, I guess that is a fetish because it's really focused on a specific thing and not like just the regular sex of the person or the body
Anything.
or
Well, the difference between a kink and a fetish is a kink is something fun that you could give or take. Like wanting to be spanked, that's hot, but I don't care if I get spanked or not. Something like that. A fetish is something that I will have dysfunction without. Like I am almost borderline obsessed with. And that's usually how you scientifically define a fetish from a kink. Is a kink is something that's out normal sex, but you could give or take. You're like, oh, it's cool, it's fun to do. I enjoy it. A fetish is something that
hardwired.
without it, I may suffer from sexual dysfunction.
Yep, yep, yeah. Somewhere, yeah. It's not. I mean, I don't think a lot of people want to admit like the truth of that, but that is how it goes, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
and personally, I see that my pantyhose fetish, like, and you, I mean, you have it too, so I see it as like a superpower, honestly. Like,
Oh, it is.
I think that, and I was talking about this with another hoser earlier this week, but I was like, what if you woke up tomorrow and it was gone? Wouldn't you feel like a piece of yourself had died? Like, wouldn't it be
Mm-hmm.
you would be mourning about it? And this person
I
was you.
would, as long as it was, I would be okay as long as it was replaced with something else I would enjoy.
That's what, yeah, and that's what he was saying. Because this guy's in his late 20s, and when I say younger, I say like late 20s. Because for me, I'm an ancient pantyhose wearer now. But he said, oh well, okay, well as long as it's replaced with this, and I'm like, no, 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 it's just taken, and then all you have is nothing. Just basic vanilla sex. I to me that would be like a death. Like it would be.
Yeah, I would not enjoy that. And I did go a long while with a partner who did not enjoy pantyhose, so it was difficult.
Mhm.
And I think once I was out of there, I was just like, I'm going to come to terms with the fact that it is one, a sexual fetish. It's something that I do require in my life, and that I don't want to be ashamed about it. And a lot of times fetishes, people are like, well, how did you get that fetish? A lot of times fetishes are hardwired.
Yeah,
Like people
yeah.
don't just choose to have fetishes. So it's both it's like a superpower in the same way as it's a gift and a curse.
It can be, yeah, absolutely. There's, I feel like the earlier generations of pantyhose wearers, that's the curse is more social than maybe the actual like fetish itself. Because let's say, for instance, like, okay, well, I mean, and I don't want to delve too much into your personal life, but since you brought it up, you were with a partner that was not open to it or was not accepting of it. And that reason, why was their reason that they weren't open to it other than what was the reason behind
It wasn't that they weren't open to it. They just didn't enjoy it. It wasn't their cup of tea. They're like, oh, pennies are uncomfortable. It's not something that I enjoy wearing. And I'm one of those people like, if my partner's not enjoying it, I'm not going to enjoy it.
that?
So, it kind of diminished the fun because I didn't want you doing something just because I wanted you to do it.
Really?
And that's just me personally. Like I don't say everyone's like that, but me, so I'm like, if this is not your cup of tea, well, let's not do it. There are other fun things we can do, and
So
I can experiment, with my fetish outside of our sexual history.
so then that's the answer for you. The key for you is to maintain an open like sexual relationship, right? Because it sounds like to me what you're saying is that if you don't have if the person's not also a hoser, then you're not going to enjoy it as much, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty much like it's not going to be as fun. That's why I always try to find someone who is sexually compatible, which is
Mm-hmm.
why communication is always important. I've talked to many other pennyos fetish who are like, "Oh, my partner doesn't know the extent of my fetish," and I was like, "Well, that's your fault."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a problem. The
Yeah.
craziest thing that I've ever experienced was, and I kid you not. So I was hooking up with this guy who was a pantyhose fetishist, and we did our thing, and he was what I like to call affectionately referred to as one of the Disney gays, where like him and his flock of gays, so they always went to Disney. The pastel shirts and the collars, and they all looked very
Mm-hmm.
preppy. And I always would see these pictures of him online. And, over the span of next year or so, I'm fooling around and I've been messing around with these guys, get him to wear pantyhose. And the guy that I was hooking up with, I'm hooking up with him probably like a year later. And I'm looking at his Facebook page and I'm realizing that the guys in it look familiar. And then it dawned on me that I knew two of them. They were married. They both had a pantyhose fetish that neither of them knew about, and they hooked up with me. They cheated on each other with me, even though they both had a fetish that they did not know about. And then in the group of five guys, three of them had a pantyhose fetish. None of them talk about it. And I thought, wow, I mean, fucked up in like a lot of different ways, but just kind of crazy about like you were saying, the inability for people to discuss things as though, you know,
And that's another reason I did the podcast I did is so people felt comfortable talking about who they are.
mm-hmm,
Um, because like I said, you don't have to be brazen about it. Like, strangers don't have to know that I have a pantyhose fetish. But the person who definitely needs to know is my partner if I'm interested in them. If we're discussing sexual compatibility, you need to know I have a fetish.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
This is a conversation I try to have. When it's, I don't get you out the door and go, pantyhose. Because I'm not at that level. I'm just like,
I think that's how we met.
yeah, I am open about it, but
Oh
I'm
yeah, no,
not like,
I'm teasing. We were two horny
yeah.
goats. Just it was fun.
Like, well, we met on FetLife, yeah. So it was
Yeah,
just like I can do that. That's a safe environment to be like
yeah.
pantyhose, pantyhose, pantyhose,
Mm-hmm.
and but yeah, I'll talk to people who have also the fetish, and they're like, I was like, oh, what does your partner wear? No, they don't really know about it. They don't know I wear, and I'm like, I get that you have this self-conscious, this fear of being like judged or something like that. But you can't cheat on your partner because you're refusing to communicate with them. That's the problem I have,
Yeah.
is that you are hurting your partner by your choice of not communicating your wants and needs,
Was
and
that
that's not okay.
was that something that you had to struggle with because of your
Mm-mm.
no, but even though okay, because I guess my question is this like and then this is I guess I'm just playing devil's advocate, but let's say, okay, I understand that if your partner's not into it, you know, you won't have as much fun, but like it's
Well,
one
I'm not
thing.
saying they never wore it. I just
Yeah, because it's like,
they didn't wear
yeah,
it as frequently.
because it's like I've always felt like the people who are like they refuse to wear it, especially a lot of the, when I hear men who are with women and the women are, like very closed off to it for no other reason that I can understand rather than maybe it's sort of like misunderstood. It's kind of misrepresented internalized misogyny because that's my theory about pantyhose and the stigma against it, I think, has to do with men being afraid of being viewed as either, like, oh, they're going to think I'm gay, which is really just another way of saying they're going to think that I'm feminine, which is just another
Yeah,
way of saying that they're,
toxic masculinity.
pretty much
Yeah,
it's there. That's the gist of it. So when I hear women say, well, I don't want like my man to wear pantyhose because that's not manly, I'm like, ooh, it's gotten to you too. And that's where I think that
toxic masculinity doesn't necessarily esteem men are doing it, because women do it as well. I mean, both genders are guilty of both sins of, unacknowledgement, judgment, and king shaming. And sometimes it's not even king shaming that you're aware of.
right, yeah.
I always tell people the worst king shame is the silent king shame.
Okay, explain what that
Is
means.
the silent king shame is, okay. So I am on a fetish podcast, and earlier I talked about a hair fetish. You were just like, "What, a hair fetish? I don't understand that." But
Well, I
like,
mean,
people like, ew, their reaction to and I'm like, I try never to have that reaction for one very important
I
reason,
didn't
because
say
you don't know
ew.
the person you're talking to. You didn't. No, I'm
Okay.
saying the example when I
Yeah.
told you about a hair fetish and you were like, I didn't know. You actually reacted properly. Like, oh, I didn't know about that one. And then you asked a follow-up question.
Yeah.
That's the appropriate way to
Ponytail
act.
or
Yeah, you reacted appropriately, but a lot of people go, ugh. They'll have that reaction of
yeah.
negativity, which a lot of times is not purposeful. It's not them trying to be judging, but it's, you don't know who in earshot has that kink, and they're just being polite and normal about it.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
lot of
Although
people assume. Go ahead.
ask you though, are there any okay, because for me, and I know that this like I know that this is kink shaming, but like or fetish shaming, but let's say the POOP stuff. For me, I just have a
It's
hard
just not your
time,
cup of tea.
but I also have a hard time understanding that something bad didn't happen to get to that point because the pantyhose, I mean, I guess pantyhose is not stinky by nature. Like nature didn't make pantyhose stinky to warn us not to go near it because we could get sick. It's just saying it's like
All
I
right,
don't know. Like
here we go.
I'm
That's a
curious.
good. Let's talk about the science. First of all, we'll keep it on point. We'll talk about the science of a pantyhose fetish.
Yeah,
Why people
yeah.
develop it.
Okay. Yeah,
There
let's
are
let's do that.
three reasons. First reason being environment. When you are attaching, the way the mind works is memory is key to everything. You attach, this is how you body builds its mind. So let's say growing up, I had a very hot friend or a very hot aunt or somebody that my brain registered as attractive, or and in my head, I attach something that reminds me of them. They wore pantyhose every single day. Every time I saw them, they were wearing pantyhose. And I was attracted to them on a very physical basis. So my
Mm-hmm.
mind is going to take the one thing it associates with, the pantyhose. Or I grew up very neurodivergent. I had issues with sensory touching, especially skin on skin touching.
Mm-hmm.
And pantyhose is a fantastic sensory solution. That's why pantyhose is made the way it is. It's very silky smooth.
Mm-hmm.
And because I have a what we call a spot of autism, or neurodivergent. I have.
You do, or like, is this?
Oh no,
Are
this
you
is
just
just
talking about
a
in general?
in general.
Okay.
I mean, I am very nerd. This is actually the reason I have a pantyhose fetish. I believe is because I struggle with skin on skin contact,
Mm,
but I also enjoy it. Pantyhose is a great way to touch somebody's skin without touching somebody's skin.
You don't argue me.
And I love the fabric. I'm a very tensile person. I'm a very
That too. Like, yeah. I mean, it's like, so what? Then what would be the third reason?
third reason. Just your brain when you're connecting your genital wares. The same reason people have foot fetish and some people hate feet is because when your nerve endings connect, your brain is always growing. You don't start with a sexual mind. You don't pop out of the womb going, one day I'm gonna like sex.
We don't. I mean, that's what I did. I came out and I was like, "Hello, my baby."
Yeah, no, actually, as you develop, systems turn on. It's like booting up a computer over the course of years. And what's
How old were
happening is you're
you when your
building that
pantyhose
computer as
computer
you
booted
go.
up? How
Oh,
old were
I would
you?
probably say. Well, see, mine developed much younger because it wasn't for that reason. Mine was the touch situation. I was probably about 8.
I was 10.
Yeah.
Yep.
But so as your system is booting up and writing itself, like your neurons are starting to fire in certain directions, connections don't always connect, or they connect incorrectly. A lot of times when people have a fetish is because what they consider genitals in their mind, not actively, actually connects to something very close to what they represent near genitals. Underwear fetish, pantyhose fetish, foot fetish, neurologically speaking, can all be stored in the same area you consider genitalia,
So
which should be
is it
sexual.
and so is this like where do you get this evidence from? Where do you read these findings? What are your resources?
Medical journals.
Do they do it? Because I found it's tricky to find a lot of research on the subject because I guess scientists are not scrambling to understand it, but I
A lot
do.
of it. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was like, but I have found a couple of things. But I also always wondered with pantyhose, at least specifically, like the fact that as like at least in the recent male history, especially in America, like men don't have any, at least not anymore, maybe in the previous times when tights were worn by men, but we don't have an analog for that type of clothing in our like oeuvre. You know what I'm saying? Like you see pantyhose on a girl, and it's maybe growing up for me, at least growing up in the 80s, 90s, when you saw pantyhose on a leg, you were like, "What is that?" And you want to find something similar because it looks nice, and you suspect it feels nice. And I was correct in my assumption that it looked and felt nice, because I mean I wonder what I mean. Where does that follow under one of the three things you listed as far as like just like
Yeah,
enjoying the feeling and
you associate it with sex. You
right?
see a person that you were attractive to, and like I said, we grew up in the 80s, 90s. Pantyhose was still very popular, and that's why you see a lot of older gentlemen have pantyhose fetish.
Well, yeah, but also, I mean, at least for me specifically, I'm primarily homosexual. I'd say 90% of the people that I'm attracted to are men, and the so where does that come in? Like, because there wasn't like a lot of dudes wearing tights, but
There weren't,
I
but
mean,
you're also going to the assumption that you developed out the gate homosexuality. Sex
well,
is
I'm not.
sex.
I
When
mean,
no, I don't think anyone is gay or straight the minute that like. And I'm not saying that it's a choice. No, this is not me. This is not the choice argument. Hold on, hear me out. So when you grow up, as you grow up, you're kind of built by the stimuli around you.
yeah.
You know, I have an accent because my parents have an accent. I grew up in an area with an accent. Can deal with heat better because I was born in an area that was hotter than normal. So now if I go somewhere else, I'm cold all the time. As
Oh,
I'm
Florida,
developing,
that
as
won't
I'm a,
happen.
yeah, yeah, as I'm growing up, as I'm developing, I am putting together this puzzle in my brain. And it doesn't necessarily mean I am straight or gay or bi or pan, because I am pan. I always say butt is butt. Um,
Oh, so okay, so you're a pan with a focus on the butt.
no, that's just a fun thing I say.
Are you are
You can
you
look up butt is butt, and it will show you the pan flag. It's just a fun saying.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I'm a little ignorant because I pansexual is you are attracted to any combination of any sort of gender
Gender.
out there.
I
Um,
don't I don't care what the gender is. I'm attracted to just multiple features.
do you have a type though? Do you have a type? Like, are there like
Mm.
certain no types? So like you could be just it could be anybody at any like it could be anyone. Like even in your dating history, has there been any sort of like synchronicity, like certain things like for instance, like I'm a sucker for a head of hair, or I tend to be attracted to men who are shorter than me. Like those kind of things?
Nope.
None. Wow.
I have preferences, but I don't have types.
Well, excuse me. That's what I mean. Like a preference. I don't know, preference type. Like
Yeah, I
it's
mean, just it's more or less don't have more hair than me, because I don't have that much hair. So usually I'm not into men with beards.
mm-hmm.
I am. Let's see. Don't and it's the little things like that. And honestly, it's person to person, because I have seen guys with beards, and I'm like, okay, yeah, no, I'd get behind that. So
Literally and metaphorically.
yeah. But and that's what it is like you're developing, you're learning who you are, and at the same time your brain is writing the pathway that is going to become you. And that's what happens. You when the neurons that your body associates with sexual gratification, sexual arousal start wiring, somewhere a memory of pantyhose was laying right next to, imagine it like being an actual computer. When you're looking at the hard drive, right next to the sex file was a file called pantyhose, and it was just your memory of that object.
Mm-hmm.
And a little bit of the wiring got over there and said, you know what, they're the same. These two things are the same. They were indistinguishable to your brain, and it hardwired that way.
I mean, I can't argue that that's not the case because for me, I think I had, when I put on pantyhose for the first time, I was not even aware of what an erection was at the time. I think like when I was younger, it was just sort of like, oh, that's things happening again where it goes up. Like that's kind of how you think about it when you're a kid. At least I was like, I'd be in the bathtub, like
Yeah,
playing,
that's how
like,
everyone does.
yeah, you're just like, okay, all right. It's doing that thing. All right, I'll just wait for it to go down. And then, you kind of until you realize what's going on. So I think that my first, like, even though I wasn't aware of it, my first boners were in pantyhose. And so that's gonna hardwire it, you know,
Well,
pretty
no, that's the thing. That's you telling it it's already there. That's your body was telling you you're already hardwired that way. You have no idea. You didn't consciously do this
no,
at no point in time.
but that's sort of how sexuality seems to work, right? Is that you don't
Hmm.
consciously pop a
There's
boner.
no choice.
Like
Yeah.
it's kind of funny. It's only when you get older that you're like thinking about whether or not a boner needs to happen. Like for like when you're like, oh, I hope I perform. It's like that was never the case when I was a kid. It was just sort of like, oh
Oh yeah,
well,
because you weren't consciously aware of sex. Like if hopefully if you had a good childhood, you just sex is not a thing. Sex is not a thing until you're
yeah,
ready for it to be a thing. Until your brain starts sending the reverse signal of, hey, pay attention to this, pay attention
yeah,
to this, pay attention
yeah,
to this. Because at first, all it's doing is building its core network. It's like building it up, writing all the code, and all the code is working. You don't know it's working, but it's there. Like
you
when I
are
was a
indeed a
kid,
coder, huh?
I would absolutely just run and grab a hose leg and like hold it. I had no idea.
Like anybody's,
I didn't know I was. Yeah, when you're a little kid,
yeah.
because my mom was telling me like she has listened to my podcast before, and when we talked about the science of kink and whatnot, and she's like, yeah, this is what you used to do as a kid. This I she knew before I ever knew,
Oh yeah,
because
yeah.
she would see these things, and you're like, you look at it at hindsight and go, well, of course I had a kink, and I'm like, Your brain knew you had that kink or that fetish well before you ever did.
Do you think it's genetic?
It can be genetic. It might not be genetic. It might just be. I think everyone's different. Everyone's built different
Yeah.
through
Oh,
stimuli. The same way anyone grows up. I grew up because of how my brain was set up, the trauma I endured, the environment I was in, the everything, every little thing, and just my genetic disposition. So it's a good chunk of all of it that make, especially for a pantyhose fetish. Like some fetishes, I can pinpoint this is the reason you have it. You want to know why you have a foot fetish? I can tell you. I can tell you 100% why, and it's all science. With a pantyhose fetish, it is a conglomerate of stimuli.
it's a weird one because think about it. The reality is that this material didn't exist 100 years ago. You know what I mean? Or it just started to exist. Like the technology for the fetish had not been around for, you know, the entire
Mm-hmm.
existence of humanity. So the at least from my experience, I could say this: like I've always said that 2 out of 3 guys, I would say 1 out of 3 guys have worn pantyhose, and 2 out of 3 are curious about it. And that's honestly like because it took me very little for me to convince people that I was, fooling around with, like in my let's say sluttier days into getting them into pantyhose. There's really it's not a big jump to ask with guys. It certainly would be more difficult maybe to say, all right, I want you to dress up in this like full like rubber suit and then go under one of those like suction beds. I don't know what they call those, but like
Oh, funny you say that. So Dinks Wit Kinks, the podcast
mm-hmm.
I'm on, recorded this morning. Vacuum beds.
Like that is some devotion. Like I get it, but you have to have like a room for that. You know what I mean? Like you have to
No,
have
you
like,
really don't. Actually, you really should listen to that episode because we talk in detail
but
and
you but did you
it's
record it this morning?
insane.
So
Yeah, it'll be out in about 4 weeks.
I want to know though. Well, I guess with that too, I'm like, I always wonder, like, I wonder how many people have died, because it seems like so, like, dangerous. It can be so I mean, like that one
Of
tube being
course.
I mean, that's the only thing is that, like, okay, for like a horror story for me, like TMI, but like I was in bed with a guy like years ago, and we were both wearing pantyhose, but he wanted to be choked, and I was like, okay, well, sure. And he goes, well, you can use this belt, and I'm like, all right, I sure. And I am a very strong guy. I did not realize my own strength. I choked him, and I saw what a face of a human being choked to death looks like, which is haunts me to this day. Like his eyes bugged out, his face turned blue, he passed out and fell off the bed, and I'm freaking out. And he's like, he comes to and he's like, "Oh, let's do it again." And I'm like, "No, no, 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 no,
Nope.
nope, not gonna happen again. Definitely not gonna happen again." And he's like, "No, I'm good, I'm cool." I'm like, "You passed out." He's like, "But that's what I wanted." I was like, like I'm still haunted like, to this
Yeah.
day. And then you imagine like if something bad happened, if you kill somebody that way, what are you going to tell the police? Oh no, officer, he wanted me to do it. Like he
Yeah.
asked me to choke him, and I was just fulfilling his desires. Like no, so that was my first and only doing that. But oh my god, like uh
We we covered autoerotic asphyxiation and breath play as an episode. And yeah, there's a lot of safety things in there that you just like that stuff does terrify me going too rough with it. Like,
yeah.
and it's one of those things you both have to be knowledgeable and informed and trust. Like I couldn't do that for a hookup. Like if not that level, like I'll do some light choking, like right there, like something that I'm like, you could still breathe,
Right. You're just sort of like
but
it's
if
cosmetic choking, just sort of like I'm just
yeah,
just gonna
cosmetic
squeeze it. Yeah,
choking.
like
But I'm not doing breath play with somebody that I'm not 110% familiar with and comfortable doing with. Because one, I mean, breath play is not really one of my things. But like any type of fetish, like I don't want to participate in something that I am not. comfortable doing without proper knowledge and like
That's yeah.
proper trust.
Yeah.
Because I'm lucky. I host a podcast about kink, so I study a lot of them. They're not all mine, but I thoroughly research the safety of them and whatnot. But still, a lot of that you have to know your partner,
That's the
and your partner
truth.
has to know you.
I mean, and I guess we're lucky as hosers, we're lucky that there's not a lot of like
There's not a
danger.
lot of safety.
Yeah, it's you don't know you're here be like he put on the pantyhose and then died. Like it's just not anything like that. But I think
I've seen a guy or two put on a pair of pantyhose and fall and injure themselves. It is very. I will say
oh
I was with a gentleman a couple years back, and he was into pantyhose. Like he also had the fetish, but he put pantyhose on from a
like
stand up
pants. Oh,
and like pants. Like he
no.
didn't roll them up, and I'm sitting there like
What are you
I'm
doing?
appalled. I am just like what are you have you never seen someone else put on pantyhose? Like is this your first experience? I
That's what
know
I'm
for a
thinking.
fact you're into pantyhose because,
That must have been
but
his
his
first time.
profile was no, his profile was covered in pictures of him in pantyhose. And I'm like,
Was
you
he a
do this every
small
single
guy?
time?
Was he small?
No, it was
He was
not.
big?
This big, a larger fella.
Whoa.
I mean, well, I
Okay.
would say he was chunky, but yeah, like I'm just
But
like
like I could
you just
maybe
don't know
understand
what you're
that if
doing.
somebody's like up like maybe like petite, you can get away with doing that if
Mhm.
you're petite, you know what I'm saying? But like
I know
if
many women who do that. Then they're petite. Yeah.
but if you are any like if you are larger than say 5'9", 5'10", like you're going into danger zone. I one time this was the worst. This he had never worn them before, but I had had him over and I convinced him, and it was a pair of platinos, and he put them on like pants, and it was just like, and I was like, oh, that was an expensive pair that just bit the dust. He's like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, it's okay. So like whenever I would have like luckily I have a partner now, and like that's all been cleared out. But like up until then, I'm like, I will put them on for you. Like, don't
Yeah.
worry. Like, let me do that. I'll show you because guys don't know that's like, no, no, no. You can't just put them on and pull them up like that. Like, wow. And he didn't rip them. The guy you were with, he didn't rip them.
No, he did
Wow.
not. He got them all. I don't know how. They were tougher. They were like they were his, and they were more. I think they were thicker. So,
Okay. Wow.
but I've known. Listen, sadly enough, I've known more women who have no idea how to put on pantyhose than men. Because most
Well,
of the time, I'm not hooking up with a guy if he has no pantyhose experience. I
what
get
about?
told all the time, yeah, I'll wear them. I'm like, you're not going to enjoy this.
Oh, come on.
Or I
That's stinking thinking. Oh, come on. You can't say that. That's not fair.
no,
Well, what
but
about
no,
you?
that's
You can make a convert.
that
It's happened. I
it
can
has.
testify.
But I was like, well, it was one of those things where I was just like, no, not worth my effort to show because it's going
Oh,
to annoy me more
no.
than yeah, oh yeah. I was just like, no.
No. Oh my God. No, you break
There
my heart.
have been. I'm not saying there hasn't been a time or two where I'm like, you're cute enough. I'll make an exception.
Oh, oh, you break
But
my heart.
usually it's like, yeah, usually it's like you are not cute enough for me to be okay with you not knowing you never wearing pantyhose before.
So they have to be cute for you to teach them. Oh, that's a
No,
bummer.
no, no.
So,
It
okay.
is.
So, yeah. Well, so, okay. So what? So, okay. So if
Hey,
you,
listen, you don't have to be cute to listen to my podcast. I have a podcast where I teach everybody about kink all day long.
but I mean,
Um,
I'm just saying,
it's
like,
already my job to teach people
do, okay.
kink.
But okay. Just let me ask you something. Do you think maybe you might be shy about asking them to wear because of the possibility of rejection?
No, 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 no. Because like I said, usually these people who are like they'll reach out to me and say, "Hey, I'll wear pantyhose for you." And like I was like, "Oh, you've done it? Are you into it?" No, 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 no. But I'll try it because I just want to hook up. It's like apps like Grinder,
Well, yeah, no,
which
I mean, I get it. Trust me, I
yeah.
get it. I mean, like as long as
And
I mean,
so
yeah. That's how I. And by the way, if you are interested in men and you want to wear pantyhose with another man, do you want the way to do it is create a profile on Grindr that prominently features you wearing pantyhose. And if you really, really, really want to hook up, uh, I, I've seen your app. I've seen before. I Because you know when your pantyhose fetish, you just do a little search around the country. You're like, oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
But if you show your face, that's going to like infinitely just increase your chances because they're going to well that's just in general because there are so many guys on Grindr that are like, I don't have a head and I can't show
Yeah,
you
I
my
don't
head.
have a head. I'm married.
Right. I'm like, that's great.
Which
So
another thing. I'm not gonna hook up with a married dude that is like cheating on his spouse or partner.
you know
Like, I have to be discreet. And I'm like, okay, I get that. You're not ready to come out yet. Oh no, I have to be discreet because I'm married. And I'm like, well, then I don't know why you're on this app.
God, well, at least you're lucky that, well, you know why they're on the app, but you're lucky though. I mean, a lot of the guys that I ended up with, like, they would wait until the sex was over to then confess, like, oh, I got to go home to my wife. And I'm like, you're what? Like, are you serious? Like, now you're telling me? Because you got to get it out. You got to confess your sin to me. Why'd you have to tell me that? I didn't, I don't, I'm assuming that you're not married, but yeah, no, there's a lot of that out there. That whole like discreet or DL thing. I'm like, can we just call it closeted? Because that's what it is. Because that's what it is
Mm-hmm.
in the closet. You may not be gay, but you're bi or whatever. You're pan.
You're
You're
bi, you're pan, you're something.
Yeah, you are one of the ones where you like dudes even just a little bit. Like, what's the big deal? And what's the big deal? What is the big deal? There's only two really to choose from in general, right? Like, you got, you got the boys and the girls, like, or you're gonna like one or the other or a mix of the two. But that's what,
Yeah.
three basically that I mean, being attracted to three people or three whatever isn't that much weirder than being attracted to one. In fact, it's more common because I think most people are a sliding scale. Like for me, I always like the Kinsey test. It's the Kinsey scale test because it's fun just to know what you're like, basing it off of your actual sexual experiences. So I'm a Kinsey 4,
Yeah.
which I'm predominantly homosexual with more than incidentally homosexual. And I I think people were honest with themselves. They're just a dusting of it, like
Oh
100%
yeah.
straight, 100% gay, rarer than I think people realize. Like honestly,
It is. Yeah. I don't believe I don't and like I said, I'm always one of those things. It's like, animal sex is sex. And that's why I'm pan. Because like I said, I actually have, I think, androgyny when you can't tell. They're just like, okay, you ever seen the movie Constantine
oh yeah,
with Keanu Reeves, Michael the
uh
Angel?
huh.
You talking about my dream partner right there.
That was the
You
one
can't
played.
tell.
Was that the one played by the guy from he's married to Gwen Stefani. Oh, I think it was
No,
the dark hair. He's got the dark hair in it, like the long hair. It wasn't. What angel is that? What I'm thinking of, because it's not like it's the one that's in the business suit, right?
yeah, but
Yeah,
that
that
was played by a woman.
wasn't it. Gavin, shoot, wasn't he in that band? Oh, God bless it. It's a '90s grunge band. Like, I can't remember the name of it now. It's gonna kill me. Gavin something or other from. If you type in
No, I
Gavin
think
married to Gwen
Lawrence
Stefani,
Swilden or something.
oh, the well, Tilda Swinton.
Yeah, Tilda Swinton. That's I was
Oh,
looking up.
now,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that androgyny right there is just, oh my god, hot.
Yeah, she's striking looking. She is striking looking. I bet when like Annie Lennox did the Sweet Dreams video, I bet that like gotcha. Like, remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Mm. Who is the Okay, who's the sexiest androgynous like celebrity that you can think of? Like,
Tilda Swinton.
she's the yep. I can see her being like the reigning queen.
Yeah.
Mm. She plays and she's, I mean, well, also she's like a fantastic actress too, but she played that male character in that Suspiria like very convincingly. You wouldn't know that that was her unless you like.
Mm-hmm.
But what about androgynous looking male? Would be
I don't know.
what about
I think I do have a preference when it comes to things like that. I prefer more feminine.
Mm-hmm.
The masculine.
Feminine,
And
but
that's where yeah, like I swing more towards, and that's in my pan preference of I prefer feminine over masculine.
so
Gender regardless, just feminine presenting.
feminine presenting. I gotcha. Okay. So like I'm gonna be so rude, I'm vulgar, but like, okay, the last person you hooked up with what was because I feel like being pan is so much like it seems like it's almost like a grab bag of like, what will it be today? Like kind of, I don't know. Because I met this one guy at Pride years ago. I can't remember the expression that he used for it, but he had a thing where he was attracted to people who wore black during summertime. And I can't remember the specific word for it, but it was
I'm gonna
sapiosexual.
Google that real quick. Sapiosexual is attracted to intelligence.
That was no, yeah, that's right. But I was pretty sure that he was flirting with. I was wearing black, but I thought that's he told me that that was a thing, like where you're attracted to people who wear certain colors, and I was like, wow, that is something else. Because I come from like my, I was born in 1981, so I am still a little binary in my thinking, which
I think he may have just I think he may have just been flirting with you and made stuff up.
see, I bought it. I thought it was real because I was like, okay, that's the thing. I mean, like,
It could be. I mean, it could be a real thing. I don't know. That's just me going, yeah, he's probably just flirting with you.
yeah, maybe. But I was like, you could have just been forthright about it and been like, I think you're cute. Because I'm like, oh, interesting. Because I mean, my first response was like, I wear black in the summer because of sweat. Like, that's why. Like,
Yep.
I don't want to be seen like weeping from my body. So I wear black. It's form over. It's like it's a function over no form over function, function over form. I can't remember. But okay. Pantyhose questions. What
Okay, here
is
we go.
what is your favorite brand of pantyhose?
Ooh. Wolford.
Wolford. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what type of Wolford? Like, is it the neon 20,
Seamless.
the seamless, the 20s, the 40s?
I love them all. I don't know if I can get that particular, like that knit grip. Just I and like I said, I like it because they are durable,
Yeah, they are.
but seamless pantyhose across the board. That's what I'm wearing right now. Like
What brand are you wearing now?
honestly, oh no, my camera fell. Well, that camera just went offline.
Oh no.
Um, yeah, it fell disconnected.
You should do your OnlyFan camera.
All right, here we go. Hold on.
Everybody, like, if you are not, if you, this is the reason to get to the Patreon because this is the goods.
Bam, bam.
What brand? Do you know what brand they are?
Nope. They're from China.
They're
I
China.
got them on I got them on eBay for like $8.
I'm wearing Aura Blue, uh,
Or a
20
blue.
Magi 20s. Like, okay, these are if you want like the equivalent. I swear to God, they feel like Wolfords. They feel like Wolfords,
Ooh.
but they do not cost Wolford. Like
Yeah, Wolfords are expensive.
I think these were like
The downside of them.
maybe $14. And I tell you, like,
Oh, that's not bad.
yeah, no, I mean, Aura Blue, thumbs up. We talked to Robert Safko from shapings.com last the episode before this one. I believe it was the episode before last, and he was suggesting Wolford, like people, always go to Wolford, but they don't realize that there are brands that can actually, it feels it just as good, but it's cheaper. And that was one of them that he suggested. And he is correct. They are fantastic. Um, how old were you when you first had sex with another person in pantyhose where you both wore, I guess, and that both of you were into it?
Both wore that would be I think probably about 19.
That's early.
Nine. Yeah. I was lucky. My first girlfriend was about as kinky as I was and just very big explorer. She was a fetish model. She was um
She had,
So she did bondage and stuff like that, and so we went kind of nuts with it and explored. Of course, it was a very toxic relationship, so I'm kind of glad I'm out of it. But
mhm.
it was a lot of fun exploring and becoming comfortable, and like I was very blessed in that regard of just being able to explore and experience.
Now
And she
she
was hot, so
had a pantyhose fetish.
no, she actually she enjoyed wearing them. I wouldn't say it was a fetish for her. She had a let's do it fetish.
Okay. So then when was the first time that you had a experience with another hoser? Because I've talked to other guys like that a lot of guys feel like it is not the same unless it's with
Hmm.
somebody else who has the fetish, which I do not agree with because I believe that you can be turned on to it, especially
Yeah,
with women. Because I mean, at least from what I can gather, fetishes are not really things that happen to women the way that they happen to men. Like there is
not
not.
true.
I mean, look, at least
Different fetishes.
numbers of it. Like I think more men
Oh
have
yeah.
fetishes than women. I'm not saying women can't have fetishes. I'm just saying it seems much more unlikely that it's going to be the case.
Actually, they just don't talk about it as much. Truth be told, scientifically speaking, they develop just as well as women. Women are just, and it's becoming a more thing. As sex positivity gets better, people are coming out more and more about fetishes. But a lot of our listeners are females. For the Dinks Wit Kinks podcast, most of the people who reach out to us, believe it or not, are females who, in confidence, want to tell us about their kinks,
But
and we'll
why?
have video views. Yeah,
Why are
they don't
they?
talk about it. They don't communicate it.
But why? I mean, here's the thing: is like, what could a woman have a fetish for that would be that would cause them to be so ashamed of, I guess.
Well, I'm not going to out anybody for
You don't have to
anything
give
they'd
me
be ashamed of.
names. You could give
Hair
me, like,
fetish.
well, but what's so shameful about that? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm
What's so
understanding
shameful? What's so shameful about pantyhose? It's an item of clothing.
for me, nothing. But
Now, well, no, listen, and that's what it is. You have perspective.
yes, but I feel like there's a lot more stigma against men being it men with like say men wearing pantyhose, men wearing, anything that's a traditionally female garment, men that want to be
Oh, but see, people
whatever.
have the stigma of telling people they have a pantyhose fetish, not even wearing them, but having their partner wear them.
That well, yeah, I mean, yeah, that could
And
be
like I
tricky.
said,
Tricky.
always keep in mind that perception and experience are the enemy of everything. So you're like, oh, women don't have fetishes, or what do they have to be ashamed about? And I'm not saying that you're doing anything wrong there, but it's just like we have fetishes. We know. We are aware and we're kind of open and proud of it. But how many people have we encountered who have that stigmata about our fetish that we don't have?
Well, the
Since we're not walking in other people's shoes, I don't have a hair fetish. So I don't know with people who have hair fetishes, I don't know how stigmatizing that is. It
I
doesn't sound stigmatizing to me.
well, I don't know if because the thing I think I said specifically is not so much people, it's women. Because for me, women in the relationship, women are the gate holders for sex. Like if you are talking about like a man and a woman, the person who is going to be the one that's going to unlock that door for sex is going to be the woman. Like the man's probably ready to go at any given moment. The woman is the one who decides that it's going to be taken to the next step, usually, at least in, like the way that,
And that may be true for the case of actual sex.
well,
But
for,
what they do, hold on, now let me continue this out. Yeah, they have to get consent for it to go, but that's typically to do what their partner wants to do. Did you know most women very much enjoy squirting, and most men are not even aware it's a thing,
what?
or they have a negative reaction to it. So
Wait,
women don't talk about it.
women, men don't know about squirting?
Oh yeah, they don't.
I mean, even I know about squirting and I don't watch straight porn. I mean,
Yep, because like I said, king shamed.
Sometimes I would.
There, and it's just one of those things where we're not in that gender. So like usually this only comes from working with somebody in the kink community for a long time who is female and having to deal, get her perspective on it and
Okay.
talking with them about like what challenges you have and talking with other females. Well, what challenges you have? Like what do you not feel comfortable coming out with? And that is usually the case across the board. People just you don't realize. And like I said, people get lost in their own fetishes and their own kinks. So they never ask. Or like, you had the women had one bad experience and it kind of shut themselves off from it.
Now that's fascinating to me because that sounds like I've heard that from like myriads of men, like in regards to at least specifically we're talking about pantyhose, but I find that so surprising that women, I mean, that the guy would be like, ew, no, I'm not into that. I find you gross. Like it just seems like a very odd reaction from a man, especially like if he's attracted to her. It's like, I mean, you're
Remember, it's not every man. It just takes one.
it's yeah, but still, I guess I just am surprised. I just am very surprised because it seems to me that women's sexuality could be, it seems it gets a lot like more loosely defined than what men's are. It's at least the way that there's a rigidity around the male sexuality that is loosening up. I mean, I believe that things are changing, but it's so surprising to me that like a woman like would feel shame about it too. It's like, but you say a lot of them do. It's like that
Mm-hmm.
blew my mind. I mean, I I'm gonna have to ask like all the women I know. I'll be like, do you have a shameful like? Because the thing about it is I just assumed that it's the men that have the primary issues with it, and you're saying that it
No.
us the same amount.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's hard to calculate it's same amounts or whatnot, but you'd be thoroughly surprised. You'd be insanely surprised. And I think it's because, like I said, there are very basic things that fundamentally different, but at the same time, exactly the same.
Have you met any women who have pantyhose fetishes? Like they literally they put them on when they were like kids and they are younger and it's was electric and they grew up with it and they can't get wet without wearing pantyhose, like anything like that.
I I have not met anyone with panties fetish. I think, like I said, I think we develop the panties fetish for different reasons. And like I've had a play partner who wore them every single day. She loved wearing them, not sexually, but
Mhm.
she very much she was ecstatic to find out it was a fetish. That made her day. She had no idea.
That's
Like
so
we had met
cool.
on Tinder and gone out a couple times and we communicate. She was real big into like BDSM, like she
Mhm.
liked bondage and stuff like that. But she wore pantyhose every day, like really shiny, regular, not stockings, but regular pantyhose. She's like, they make me feel confident, they make me feel good. I love how they feel,
Yep.
you know. And I was like, yeah, it's a fetish. That's like she's like, that's amazing. I had no idea.
She's
She just
like,
wasn't aware.
and
Because
so
like I said,
so then did you like get to show her like all the different like sites and all the photos and all the things? Oh, she must have been like like her eyes must have been pinwheels.
oh yeah, she loved it. She was just like, "This is amazing. This is great." I have a she had a superpower because she knew most women hated wearing them. In fact, in her experience, she had gotten more flack for wearing them from men than anyone else because she
Really?
wore them all the time. And again, we have a fetish, and I know it's hard to understand why someone would tell someone not to wear pantyhose, but she got told all the time, "Why are you wearing pantyhose? Just go bare-legged."
These are men who were they men who were sexually like were they people that she was with or were these just strangers on the street?
People that she was with.
Oh, okay, wow. I mean, yikes. I mean,
Again, we have the perspective of pantyhose fetish.
no, I understand that, but I'm saying like if for me, I came across like I don't think that there's ever a time where if somebody wanted to wear an outfit in bed, it would be impossible for me to be like, ew, no, you can't wear that outfit in bed. Like I don't understand somebody who's going to shut someone down because they like to wear an article of clothing in bed. I mean, shoot, if you want to dress up like a pole,
Not in bed. She never wore them in bed before. Like she'd make she didn't know people did that. She's just talking
really?
about like going out and about. Yeah, she's just like I just wear them when I go. And people are like, God, go barelegged. Why do you wear pantyhose? And she was just like, yeah, it's happened more times than anything.
Wow, that's some closed-mindedness, right?
It's it's
Mm-mm.
not closed minded. It's preference. You know,
I
I know
get
people who have my co-host of the Dinks Wit Kinks podcast, one of our co-hosts, Shep, he has a skin fetish. He loves bare skin. He hates pantyhose.
does he tell people who he's with what they should and should wear?
No, he says what his preferences.
But if it's not, I guess if it's not in the bedroom, like why why would you say that? I don't know. It seems like that's kind of like hurtful, right? To like,
It is hurtful, but it's one of those things where you tell your partner, hey, like, you know, one of those things are, it would be, it's not like, don't wear that. It's like, why are you wearing that?
I mean, what else can you say to that other than like I want to? It's like that's
Mm-hmm.
well, do you still
I've been asked that before.
well, I mean, when people ask me why do I wear it, I'm like, it's comfortable, and that's the end of the discussion. Like, I think when people are, at least with men wanting to know why, there's an obvious reason behind that. Like, they're curious. Like, sort of when a guy asks you why do you wear pantyhose, it's can be loosely translated as I've thought about that too, but I can't really think of a reason why I could without being nervous about being made fun of. So I'd like to know what your reasons are. It's the same reason, like, I think a lot of guys, like, when the guys are like, oh, I can't shave my legs. And I'm like, well, why? They're like, well, people will say something. I'm like, well, I mean, do you want to shave your legs? Yes. Oh, yes. I love it. I love the feeling. I'm like, well, then you should shave your legs. Like, there's really nothing that should be stopping you. Then there are, some guys who like dig the hair, and I get it. But like, it always blows my mind that somebody would be, you know, that somebody would say that to somebody unprovoked. It's like it's so just
Well, it's
kind of
not unprovoked. It's just your preference. You know, if you're with a partner and, you know, they ask, what's your preference? I'm going to answer.
in like everyday wear or in bed.
Yeah,
I mean,
every
I'd
day
be
wear.
like,
Someone says, hey, if someone says, how do I look in this? I'm going to give you my honest opinion. I'm going to give you my preference.
oh well, yeah, I guess
And I've
so.
been asked 1,001. Yeah, I've been asked 1,001 times. Hey, how does this look? Yeah, looks cute. Lose the pantyhose.
Okay, well, shit. I'd be like, okay, well,
But you know, I know, and that's the situation right there. It's just how do I look? Cute. Lose the pantyhose.
I'd be like, but I'd be like, that's the thing that makes me feel cute. Ah,
And you know, then that's where communication comes involved in what. But and that's what it is. It's just it boils down to personal preference and like things. So I get our my co-host not a fan of pantyhose. Actually, both my co-hosts are not fans of pantyhose. One of them, Rebecca, she loves stockings, but she hates pantyhose.
okay. I mean, interesting. Uh, I think most of our
And she
listeners,
hates them. She hates them because she had to wear them for a job.
that's the thing. Now that's a whole nother kettle of fish that I think that a lot of women, because it was a mandated thing. Like you had
Mm-hmm.
like there was no discussion. You had to wear them regardless of what position you were in. I mean, I heard that they were making women wear them in the army, which is
Yep.
like ridiculous. So I understand if the pantyhose for women could be a sign of like a shackle, like if there was something that they had to wear, like it would be the equivalent. Like I fucking hate khakis. Like I fucking hate wearing khakis because they are uncomfortable. I don't like how I look in them, but because they were a part of every job, you have to wear khakis. Like if somebody had a khaki fetish, I'd be like, all right, that's gonna take me a hot minute to like
Yep.
that. I get that, and that's totally warranted. I wonder if that will start to relax as pantyhose are now not as mandated, or I don't think, at least in the United States, they're not mandated for work clothing other than what Hooters, which I
Yeah.
mean, I still think they should have male Hooters, but that's just me. That's the only
I want my goth femboy hooters. That's what I want.
goth femboy Hooters. So it could,
I
I
need
mean,
femboy hooters.
so it's just it would just be like a Hooters outfit, but like maybe black shorty shorts
Oh yeah.
and like
Um,
boots.
but like yeah, so like it does. It's one of those things. Or yeah, I can see why women don't have that fetish because
Like,
one,
yeah.
there is a level of like taboo and not my experience attached to pantyhose. Like they weren't for me growing up, so like I have an attachment to it.
You think
But if it's
that's the case though?
it, I think it could be a lot of the case.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I said, I know women who have tank top fetishes for men, like men in tank tops.
Well, yeah, I mean, is that's I mean, men look
That's a
good.
fetish, and you don't realize that that's an absolute fetish for women.
It's a fetish for men too. I mean,
Yeah,
men look good in tank tops.
yeah, and it is one of those things. Are I don't like I don't see anything of it because I wear a tank top all the time,
But
and I think that's why women don't develop that fetish, like the fetish for pantyhose, is because you don't need to. There's no
well, yeah.
need to develop it because you could just do it. It was common, no one's gonna look at you twice, so it's like why?
It's well, that's another. I think that's the thing because at least when I talk to other hoser content creators, so a lot of things that I'm hearing now, especially from women, is that they did not realize that pantyhose had such a sway over men, and
That's
that
it.
it can be a powerful thing, an aphrodisiac. And the women who have learned to embrace it, and they're like, oh, I can use this to accentuate and allow them to boost their own self. It allows their self-esteem to get boosted, right? Which I mean, I think that if that's a tool in your arsenal, use it because I've used it. Like hell, I mean, who doesn't love having somebody oogle, you know, your legs? I mean, as long as it's not like, in a threatening way, but like,
Creepy way.
yeah.
Yeah.
But like as when I, would do personal training with clients and like I would see guys at the gym just kind of like, uh, I did not mind it. I I I enjoyed it, and I keep doing it. So,
Well, I think the number one question I get asked a lot of time by hosers is well, how do you tell somebody you have a pantyhose fetish? And I was like, oh, just exactly as that.
mhm.
If somebody asks, because a lot of times, their experience or they're accosting people on the internet, telling them about the pantyhose fetish, they did not consent to know about their kinks at
Oh,
all.
that's not good. Yeah, that's a problem,
Yeah.
and maybe preface with like, if you have a pantyhose fetish and you see somebody online who also has that, do not assume that they want to see your like privates or you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like
Consent.
just yeah, figure it out first. Like start off with a hello. Don't do the digital equivalent of flashing somebody. Oh, the worst is when
I
you the worst is when you get like they're like, I love pantyhose. You're like, excellent. And then they just send you a dick and you're like, what the fuck? Like at
I get
least
that all the time.
put it into pantyhose for God's sake. If you're going to do that to me, like if you're going to ruin my breakfast, like it's never the ones you want to see either. It's like
No, no, no,
you're
no.
never flashed by somebody who has a beautiful dick. It's usually like it's like something out of
Corkscrew peen. Yeah, it's like corkscrewing and it's lumpy in places. Like, why is it lumpy?
like a potato.
Well, and it's the same thing with like if you're a straight guy who loves pantyhose and on women and
What?
whatnot,
Where are they? I'm
you're
just
creeping people out. You're creeping people out by making it. You're coming out the door so strong without consent.
wait a minute. Okay, you mean like okay? Explain the situation that you're talking about, like the scenario. I mean, like they're flashing
Telling you,
well, or you mean?
oh yeah,
Oh yeah, no.
I have female friends who do content, and they would be happy to talk to people about pantyhose fetish all day long.
Yeah,
But they immediately like, I have a pantyhose fetish. You do sexual content. Here's a peen. I'm like, I didn't want to see that.
well, that's yeah.
I did not consent to it.
That boils down to like, come on, like you don't do that. Like
Yeah.
it's not a good look on anyone. I mean, geez, and crow. Yeah, no, you can't do that. But, if you just wait and have a conversation, like see how it goes. I mean, like it for me. I don't have like I'm not as easily offended if like a person takes their time to talk to me and they're like, I want to show you a picture of myself in pantyhose. If they've been polite about it, you know,
Yeah,
9 times out of 10, I'm
I
just
will say
I want to
so
see.
are the so are the female content creators. I know they would be like they'd be happy if they asked for consent, was polite about it, didn't come out the gate as creepy as shit,
Yeah, well, that's a
and
tough thing to for the
yeah, but that's
women.
not
I mean, I imagine they get it, 10 times over.
and that's not a pantyhose fetish thing. That is just a creep thing. Doesn't
Yeah,
matter what fetish you are. There's creeps in every fetish.
yeah, exactly. Like you're gonna have a
There are
yeah,
creeps with no fetish.
yeah, exactly. Like, and I mean, the so let me. So have you? I know. I mean, so but you come across a content creator who is in the kink or fetish realm that you've talked to that is open to the wearing of it, that has maybe even converted like to the
Oh
wearing
yeah,
of
I've
videos.
converted.
What do you mean you've converted?
I no, I've converted somebody.
Oh, you converted. Okay, woman or man?
Woman.
Okay, wow. Okay, like tell me about that one.
So we're on a mutual Discord server.
Hmm.
I'm not going to mention it by name because it's not we just frequent there. But there's a member in there that I tagged recently. She is a content creator and she makes pantyhose content. And the first time she ever experienced pantyhose fetish was with me. I converted her over, and she
In the
loves them.
in
She
the
sent me.
Was this a pantyhose Discord?
Yes, it was a pantyhose Discord. We actually had met on Tinder. I invited her to that Discord once she got involved. Like once we got involved and I experienced with her, but she has been a playmate. We streamed the person I streamed with last night.
Okay. So do you can I ask
Uh,
you this? Do you put your do you have pictures of yourself in pantyhose on your Tinder account?
I did it one time. I had
Good for
one
you.
picture. Yeah,
Good for you. Now that's like I really got it. Hats off to you for doing that, because you know what? And like the straight or the bi guys listening, that's how if that is how you get the question out of the way easy. Like you don't have to have that conversation if you just take a shot of yourself wearing in with like regular clothes. Then there,
that's it. It's not a creepy photo. It wasn't like a sexually
yeah,
explicit photo. It was just like me in like shorts and pantyhose.
exactly. And then they're going to say, "Oh, are you wearing pantyhose?" And you'll say, "Yeah." And they go, "Oh,
Yeah,
okay." It's a lot
yeah.
less awkward.
It's a and it's a good way to be like if they're not into pantyhose, they just won't match with you,
Yeah, they just move on. Exactly. And I mean,
and they move on, and I'm fine with that.
well, yeah, I mean, fuck them if they, I mean, if they don't like it, fuck it. Who cares? Like
Yeah.
you don't want,
I either have a picture of it or I mention like, hey, I am sex positive with a fetish. And I may not label the fetish, but I'll be like, oh, I'm sex positive, big into kink, but with consent and respect. And I usually let them ask. Like I'm not gonna come out the gate. Let's talk about fetish. Mainly just because like I talk about it all the time. So I'm like, I'm not gonna try to push nothing.
really date.
If the
Not,
chemistry.
it's not date a first date conversation, right?
Yeah, it's not. Unless it just goes that way because like I said, I'm on a fetish podcast and it's a very popular one. So like I do talk about it.
But I mean,
Um,
do you talk about it more with? I'm curious. Do you talk about it more like that? I could see that being a less tricky conversation with another man on a first date versus a woman, because
yeah,
I mean, like
I,
at least,
and I think it's because I do talk about why I enjoy the kink podcast is because I'm fascinated. Like the reason I love the fetish podcast is I love the science of kink, the psychology of it, why we like what we like,
and you
and
do,
I like educating people.
and you have no personally. Are there any hard lines that you're just like, no, no, thank you?
Oh yeah, yeah, many.
Yeah,
And we've
because
talked about them before. Yeah.
because that's the thing is like for me I'm like once with like for me, if this can be something that can spread disease, mm-mm.
Oh, I'm like okay. So there's three. The one we talked about. Let's just go out there. Mr. Ploppies, no doo doo.
I know. Mm-mm.
It's gross as hell.
Yeah,
I don't have any problem. But if you have that kink, this is not me shaming you. It's just not for me. That's
I
the way I tell people.
I will personally be like, I'm going to have to shame you because no. I know I'm not, I know that's not nice, but I'm sorry, but like I feel like if you want to have people taking a shit on you, maybe go talk to a doctor and say, how did we get here where this is why I
I'm
mean I
not
don't
going to do all that because, like I said, you should listen to the episode because it does explain a lot of the science behind it.
I just
Um,
ugh, I
now,
so
now that being said, and there's other things like CBT. I am not into at all. Cock and ball torture,
oh Lord,
sounding.
oh yeah, no. Yeah. Yikes.
And those are things, but we did episodes on them. We did episodes and we talked about them positively. Like, you know, no, none of our episodes do we ever come out going, fuck this fetish. I hate this fetish. No, we'll go into it and let's talk about what all the good things about it. Like the people try to take a walk in their shoes and find that common ground.
Can you tell
And
me
you'd be surprised. You would be really surprised.
what are
I
the
honestly,
what are
I
the
think
good
if you,
what are the good parts about having somebody take a shit on you?
well, I mean, listen, I could tell you, or I could just get you to go over to Dinks Wit Kinks
I will
at
go,
Dinks Wit Kinks
but you're
anywhere on
on
social media and look
but
at the
you're here
episodes.
now and I'm interviewing you. I'm just curious.
Oh no, I'm not gonna. No, you go over there. It's one of those things are that, and I can't remember off the top of my head. That episode was like
I
50
think
episodes ago.
come on, there's nothing good about that one. I'm just saying, like, like
Maybe not to you. I
definitely.
don't. I It's nothing good for me. I can tell you that much. I'm not into it at all. But I remember doing the research behind it and going, okay, all right, this makes sense. I could see how you could line this up, but it's not for me. It's not something I want to experience or do.
That is well, you
And
very good. It's a significant empath because
same with golden showers, like a water sports. Just don't pee on me. I don't want pee pee on me. But we did an entire episode on it, and you know I get it.
I let
It's
somebody
just not for me.
okay, I've had somebody ask me to do that on them. I said it has to be in the shower. Like I will not be doing any rubber sheets, but don't do it on me. Like not into it. Like that's
Yeah.
but yeah, I think bodily fluids or bodily think that's sort of like a no-no for me. Obviously, everything has to people need to it cannot be illegal. Like I'm sorry, but like if your kink is taking advantage of people who are passed out, no.
No, not unless you are doing it in a consenting manner of, you know,
Mm,
let's talk this out beforehand, and it's 100% role play, and the person you're doing it with has consented beforehand, and they know exactly what's going on.
no, we're not talking about like what do they call it? Consensual non-consent, where it's like decided
Consensual
beforehand.
non-consent.
That's no, I'm
Yeah.
talking about people who are like, I'm sure, I mean, I don't know, but I'm sure there are people out there who have a fetish for doing the,
Oh, I'm sure there are, and I don't condone that, but I
and that's,
condone, you know, anything with consent. I condone
yeah, it's
anything as
like,
long as it's not illegal or it's not illegal, immoral, or hurtful to another person.
or pooped. Just say, you can, come on, come on. You don't want to be pooped on. It's okay to not want to be pooped
I
on.
don't. I don't. I don't want to be pooped on.
Nobody
Not
will.
happening. Don't poop on me.
I,
All right.
that,
Listen,
uh,
keep all your bathroom stuff in your bathroom, and I'm fine with that.
if you want a little kink, okay,
I'm not going to diss anybody on it. I'm not going to diss if that is your kink. You know, listen, I'm proud of you. Go listen to our episode on it.
yeah,
Get our, you know, like I said, I don't believe that anyone should ever feel ashamed for any of their kinks ever. Doesn't matter what they are, because like
unless,
I said, I have a fetish, and there's been many times where people try to make me feel ashamed about my fetish,
mhm.
and I'm never going to make someone else feel that way because,
Okay,
like I said, I can't help having the fetish that I have.
yeah, no, I mean, it's true. You can't, but I just think that some of them are maybe more unfortunate than others would be my expression for it, I guess. I apologize. I don't mean to kink shame anyone out there. I also just maybe hope that nobody listening is like, I want to be taking a dump in my pantyhose. I did have a guy one time, this no joke. He had a thing for farts, and I was like, he's like, can you fart on me? And I was like, no, I don't think I can do that. I just don't think that that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Not really my thing. Also, that's something that I feel like you need to just sort of have like ready to go. Like, I don't know. So he he was I was on my like I was on all fours. He was behind, doing the thing, and I feel this puff of air going, and I'm like, what the hell is that? And he's like, oh, nothing, nothing. And then he does it again. I was like, excuse me. I was like, are you trying to blow air inside me so that I'll fart? He was like, yeah. And he was wearing pantyhose too. So like I was like, yeah, no, okay, that's not cool. I told you it wasn't my thing. And by the way, you can't blow air into somebody and call it a fart. That's a queef, okay? Like there's a
Yeah.
difference too. Like
But then again, it's not the gas they want. They just want the sound and the
well,
sensation.
I mean, I
We also did farts. We also did farts. You should look that one up.
I said no and he
That
blew.
was that's actually a really that was actually a really funny episode because at the end of the day we make puns all day long. We never make fun of a kink, but we will make jokes with the kink all day long.
Well,
And of
I
course, fart episode was great.
yeah, no, this wasn't great because he was I said no and he was trying to blow air up my ass, which is just like I don't
Yeah, that's not consent.
if you've ever had air blown into any sort of part of your body without you knowing it was going to happen, it's not cool. It's just sort
No,
of like not pleasant. Like I mean, yeah, don't want to do that. Okay, so Dinks with Kinks is your podcast,
it
and
is.
have you done a whole pantyhose fetish episode?
Mm-hmm. I think we've
And
done two.
you've done two. Okay, awesome. So, um, where can people find that? Where do they go?
You can go. I think it is. Let me look up the exact website. Um, load. Dinkswitkinks.podbean.com. It's
Pod,
available anywhere. Yeah,
how do you spell?
Dinks Wit Kinks.
Mm-hmm.
And that's without a H. Take the H out of there because it's Dinks Wit Kinks Fetish Podcast. It's available anywhere you listen to podcasts. Like if you're like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, across the board. It's available everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
We're up to 127 episodes.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, you've been doing it since I first talked to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's fun. And each week we do a different episode. Occasionally we have guest stars. The very first episode, like the first 10, we were still a live stream, but then we moved over to audio podcast strictly. So the quality kind of jumped up in scale because we were like,
Mm-hmm.
now we're in a studio, now we're talking and got a little better. But we did an episode of Pantyhose when we first started, and then we came back and revisited it much later on. So
Cool,
we
cool.
cover every fetish in the sun. And if we haven't covered it, we always tell people reach out to us at Dinks Wit Kinks on social media. So
All right. Well, if anybody out there has a fun thing that they like to do, 127 episodes. That's you got to be covering the bases pretty. Like that's I wonder. Well, I mean, God, there's so many of them, but still, it's like
hundreds.
yeah, it's what's I'm trying to think of like one I could trip you up on. I'd be like, I can't think of any. What is what's like hmm people like did you do like the sliming thing, right? People like having slime dumped on them and stuff. Is that one you've
Yeah,
done?
wham. Yeah,
What's
splashing and wham. Yeah.
what do they call it?
Splashing or wham. Wham, wet and messy, or
Uh-huh.
splashing.
Splashing. Wow. The internet, it's amazing. It's given so many like voices to are
I
you
have
a
that.
you're a splasher? Wow. Now, okay, I could see the pantyhose being kind of cool with that because of the sensation. I could see that being a thing. Like, especially, I don't know, like with a full body pantyhose type thing. I could see that being
It's
like,
honestly that kink that is more of a kink than a fetish, and it's just fun. It's just like one of those things where like I don't need to have it. It's just like one of those things where like, hey, you want to go and get like all messy and pantyhose? Sure, yeah, that sounds fun. Or you just want to get messy? Yeah, that could lead to some sexy stuff. Like I
do
said, a
you,
lot of these things you have to realize that a lot of things are kinks.
well,
They're
yeah.
like, oh, that sounds fun. I could do that.
Well, I did. I'm just saying, like, because for me, I'm so like, because also this is a pantyhose podcast, but I can see the appeal of like because
Yeah.
there are some fetishes and kinks that are like they're sort of they have the Venn diagram kind of cross section where it's like, obviously, if you're into pantyhose, then you probably will be into lycra. If you're into lycra, you're going to be into spandex. If you're into spandex, you're going to be into rubber. The kind of like rainbow of like the combinations. And I did a photo shoot one time where I was wearing pantyhose and a spandex top in actual like mud. We went out to like the Everglades, and the photographer took
Yeah,
pictures of like, kind of like posing in the mud, and it was really cool. But it was also really like arousing to do that. So I can
that's
see.
it. That's a splashing kink right there. That's what I love. I love mud. Pantyhose and mud are really hot to me.
I think that is I totally get that. I think the only bummer about it is that it makes such a mess that you can't really like do it in the house. You know what I mean? Like you'd have to like
Yeah,
the room, and even then you wouldn't get it all. You wouldn't get it all. It'd be tricky. But I don't. How about I challenge you to a pantyhose dare. Would you ever do a photo shoot of yourself in mud and pantyhose?
done it.
Well, shoot, you got to share those pictures because
It's on Fed Life.
mm, really,
There's
I
a whole
feel
video of me.
a video of you, huh? Hmm. I'll have to check that out. I mean, I remember you did one like when you were like younger. I remember seeing like a
Yeah,
photo
that's
of
it.
younger. You were wearing
Yeah.
pantyhose?
Mm-hmm. You
Huh.
can't really see it.
That I did not realize. You should do a new one. That's what you should do. You should do an updated photo shoot.
I'll think about that. That's effort. Listen. Usually, if you're gonna get me in a photo shoot, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna be there at what time, doing what, with this, that, and the other. I already have to do like a ton of photo shoots for promotion all the time.
But
So like,
it'd be
and
great,
I'm usually the guy behind the camera.
but you should do it in front of the camera because it's hot.
Oh, well, maybe.
I think it'd be cool to see. And I'm not just saying that because I find it personally attractive. I'm just saying I find it attractive, and therefore I look. I think that I could safely say that it would not be a strange thing. It would not be a big leap for listeners to get it. But
No. No, I've done like, yeah, I've posed in pantyhose many times for like both professionally and just for funsies.
mhm.
Uh, and like I said, usually it's one of those things where like I love to wear panties, but I don't wear it as often as I would like to. Like it's one of those fetishes that I don't participate in as frequently as I want to,
Why
just
not?
because like I said, it's a time thing, and like I'm a workaholic, with any type of digital tech stuff, and we have a whole stream company that we manage and all that. So I'm
Yeah,
like, a lot of times I'm like, oh, pantyhose is fun for the weekend, and it's just like, let's do it. Like I've gotten to the point now where I'm just like, all right, I got some time off, I got a free day, I'm gonna hose it up. And at that point in time, I don't want to be in front of a camera.
I got you.
You spend,
Yeah, I know.
yeah,
I hear you. I just am kind of wanted to like we're doing a thing with our listeners where we're encouraging them to either if they have worn it's like if they take a picture of themselves wearing hose showing their face inside, or if they want the big prize they could take a picture of themselves wearing hose showing their face outside. It's just a sort of a like a fun little project we're doing where we're encouraging people to do that because we see so many people post
well,
online.
I do live stream, twitch.tv/the Dondero. I'll give you both these links to put in the description.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
And like last night, I live streamed with one of my playmates and friends. We were both in pantyhose, and there's a feature you can turn on to see the pantyhose I'm wearing.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. No, it's just sort of like it's I guess it's trickier to like post a stream live like in our like little like like in our Discord, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like but it's
absolutely.
mainly there just to promote solidarity more than anything
Oh
else.
yeah,
Although, we all know
I
that.
could
Go on.
I could send some pictures I've taken in the past. Absolutely. But yeah,
Uh
I think that's the reason I just don't do more pantyhose shooting, is because I do. I work in front of a camera all day long.
well, yeah, that's I can understand. I get that.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't know. I just want to like be off camera and enjoy myself, because then I always feel like I have to be on.
Because I will say that there is a listener of my podcast who specifically asked for me to interview you because they wanted to hear you talk more in depth about pantyhose. So you have at the very least you have a very devoted fan that was
Oh,
curious.
fantastic.
Yeah, that was the behind it. So, and this young man, I think, is on the cusp of, you know, like deciding that he wants to wear publicly, or the urge is there. And I sort of am just I'm just saying, like, maybe if you did a picture, it might be like, kind of you might be like his Wheaties hero. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. I usually my opinion on that is you'll get there when you're comfortable. Do it, like I always encourage people to go out and be the best person they can be, but don't force yourself to do anything you're not comfortable with yet because it might ruin it. You might never get there if you do it too soon.
well, that's why we encourage and don't insist.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, yeah, absolutely. Go out and do it. But do
Like,
it when you're ready and do it on your terms
fully aware that there are people.
and
Yeah.
and have fun with it.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, I mean, good Lord. If you are not having fun with it, then you need to write me an email and we have to have a discussion, because there are some things
Absolutely.
there are some things that I gotta inform you on. Like, for instance, the magic wand. They could do a whole episode about that one. It's every pantyhose wearer's best friend. If you have not tried it, hold on to your bootstraps, because it's it's pretty mind blowing. Like, literally mind blowing.
Oh
Well,
yeah. I've played with the magic wand many fun times with many partners. It's fun.
I can't. I mean, I would be surprised if you did not. Like, that would be shocking. Because if you host a podcast with Kinks and you've got a pantyhose fetish and you did not use the magic wand, I'd be like, well, you must have not ever heard of it or something. But, well, thank you, Dondero, for taking the time to join me today, and discussing your like your wheelhouse and the additional wheelhouses of the fetish world as at large.
Oh, of course. I love being here. I can always talk more pantyhose, so I would be happy to be back. I'm an avid, like I said, I'm an avid wearer. I'm wearing right now. Got my
Yeah.
seamless on. Love them to death.
And right there, that's the Patreon. That's why you should join our Patreon,
Yeah.
because you get to see
Join
that.
the Patreon. You can see my host feet right there. They're very cute.
Nice. They're very nice. I am inappropriately getting excited, and I don't want to break my professional was it veneer? It'd be the word for it. But basically, what I'm saying is it's hot, and you would like to see it. And if you want to see hot things, join the Patreon and check out.
Absolutely join the Patreon.
Yeah, and join and go check out Dinks Wit Kinks, because
Dinks
it's
Wit Kinks.
Dinks Wit Kinks. And Dondero is a really cool guy. And thank you for taking the time. And we will definitely have you back on. We'll talk more pantyhose. We'll talk all sorts of stuff. Maybe we'll do
Fantastic.
a sploosh pantyhose extravaganza.
Ooh, that would be a lot of fun. But yes, thank you for having me.
You are welcome.